Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel DataZard. I am Radhika and we are continuing our DBT series. We have already done some setup or installations before, like in the previous video. So this is part 2 of that video. If you have not watched that particular video, then I would recommend watching that one first, because some of the setup that we will be doing in this video will be coming from the previous video. So watch that and then come back over here. So the first thing that we need to do for this particular video is we have to do our Git setup. So for Git, let's go to their website and download it. So I am in the git-scm.com, and here you can see that they have provided different ways to install depending on what OS you are on. So depending on the OS that you're using, please download Git from here, and then we can just go back to our VS Code and determine that whether Git is installed or not. But before doing that, let us create a GitHub repository as well. If you don't have a GitHub account, then you will need to first create that GitHub account. And then once you do that, it's just a basic sign up process that you have to do for any other website. So it's similar to that. So you first do the sign up there. And once you sign in, you can go to the top right corner where your picture is shown, and then click on repositories to go to the repository. Now we're going to create a new repository for this. So I'm clicking on new here, and I will call this as DBT HR Analytics project. This is my repository name on GitHub. Now I'm keeping the visibility as public. You can choose to keep it private or public depending on what you require. And I'm not checking in any of these. We're just going to click on create repository. Now once we have done or created this repository, let's go to our VS Code so that we can do the installations from there on. So we have got the Git now, we have created GitHub account and have created a repository in it. Now the last thing to do is do the VS Code setup, and then finally initialize the DBT project. Now to give an overview, there are two ways to use DBT. First is using their web browser. So they have built a beautiful UI where you can just go and do the operations that you are doing from the command line interface. So that is the first option, and the other option is to use DBT command line interface. I always prefer to do things using command line, so we are doing this project using command line. And also the UI version, like the web-based version, it is not free version, so it's better to use this for understanding purposes, but the functionality is very similar. So here I am in my project here, HR Analytics DBT. This is the folder that I've created particularly for doing this particular project. So firstly, we need to clone the repository that we have created. So this was the repository DBT HR Analytics project. We have to clone this into our local environment so that we can push further updates later on when we will be doing them. So for this, what we need to do is we will first need to clone the GitHub repository. So this is the repository that we have created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this GitHub link, and we're going to open the terminal. So let's go to terminal and click on new terminal. And here we are going to clone this. So git clone, and we're going to paste the repository link and click on enter. The reason why we are doing this is because we want to get our GitHub repository into local repository so that whatever changes we make in our code now, we can push them back into GitHub repository to share with others. So I have now cloned this repository, and if you can see earlier, this HR Analytics DBT, which was my local folder, it was empty, but now it contains DBT HR Analytics project. So this name DBT HR Analytics project is the same name as our repository. So you can see that we have cloned the repository. Next, let us go into this particular Git repository. So we will do DBT HR and CD DBT HR Analytics project. So now we are in this Git repository, and the next thing to do is we need to create a virtual environment. Previously, you might have created virtual environment using conduct environment creation. However, this time we are going to use a different package which is called as UV. So this is a very fast and efficient way to create environments. So that is why we are going to use this method now. Now the first thing that you need to do is you need to first install UV. So for that we are going to do pip install UV. For me, I have already installed UV, so it is going to say requirements already satisfied, as you can see over here. But for you, if you're doing this for the first time, UV would be installed for you. Next, we need to initialize UV, and to do that, we first need to do UV init. Now, as soon as we do this, UV is initialized, and earlier this folder was empty, but now it contains a few files which are created by UV. So the first is this Python version file, and I don't want Python 3.8. I want to use Python 3.12. So I'm going to just add 3.12 over here, like update 3.8 to 3.12, and just save the file. And now when I will be creating a virtual environment using UV, then 3.12 will be the version used for Python. So you can see it in such an easier way, we can just update the Python version. The next file is this pyproject.2ml file. So it contains the name of the virtual environment. So for us, it would be the same as the name of the folder that we are in. Then the version 0.1.0. We can add the description here. So I will write, this is my first DBT project. You can write any description that you like. Then there is a readme file, so it mentions that there is a readme and it's readme.md, and the requires Python version, they will get updated, which is 3.12 or later. And dependencies, this is all the packages that are installed in this virtual environment. Currently there is none, so that is why it is an empty list. Now let us create our virtual environment. Because till now we have only initialized UV. So to create virtual environment, we will use UV sync. And as soon as we do that, you can see that it writes using C Python 3.12, because that is what the version we told UV to use, and creating virtual environment at .venv. And you can see on the left hand corner that .venv virtual environment has been created. Now, we will need to activate this environment. So to activate it, because if you see here, currently we are in the base environment. To activate it, the way to do this in Mac, when you use UV, is you write source and then .venv/bin/activate. As soon as you do that, you can see that our environment has been activated. If you're on Windows, I believe the command is .venv/scripts/activate, but just double check this on Google. Now, once you have activated the virtual environment, the next step to do is we have to install the packages that are required for this project. For when you are using pip, then the way you would install packages is pip install and the package name. Like if we have to do install dbt core, then we would say pip install dbt core. But because we are using UV, so the way to do this is UV add and then the package name. So instead of pip install, we are doing UV add and then the package name. So for us, the package name is dbt core and dbt snowflake. Why Snowflake? Because we are using dbt for the transformations and Snowflake's compute and storage to store those whatever data we have transformed to store and store that data. That is why we are installing dbt core and dbt snowflake. Now let's hit enter. Oh, I have written and. We don't need and here, so I will say UV add dbt core and dbt snowflake. I don't have to write and. So as soon as we do this, these packages get installed. And if we go to our dependencies, then we can see in pyproject.2ml that these have been added into our dependencies. Now, we have already cloned our GitHub repository. We have created a virtual environment, installed the required packages. So the next step is to initialize our dbt project and do the setup. So for this, I'm going to do dbt init. And as soon as I do this, dbt is going to ask us for some configuration information as to how we would like to connect dbt with Snowflake. So it's asking me enter a name for the project at the very bottom. So I'm just going to write this as dbt HR analytics. This is my project name. Now it is asking me which database would you like to use. Now the database that we can use is Snowflake because that's what we want to use. So I'm just going to write number 1 here. If there were any other installations that you would have done like dbt redshift or dbt with any other database, then it would have shown those options as well. But because we have only installed dbt Snowflake, that is why it is smart enough to show us just Snowflake. So I'm just going to write number 1 over here. Now the next thing is it is asking us for this account information, and it is giving the hint that whatever is this value .snowflakecomputing.com, so we have to give this value. So let us go back to our Snowflake setup, and here let's go to our account details, and then from account I will go to this view account details. So if you can see here .snowflakecomputing.com, before that whatever was there we just have to give this to dbt. So let's go back again here and paste it and hit enter. Now it is asking us for the username. So what username would you be like to use to connect dbt with Snowflake? So if you remember that we have created this dbt user so that we can use dbt with Snowflake. I don't want to use my own Snowflake account admin role. I have created a separate role which is dbt role, and the user that has been assigned to this role is dbt user. So I want to use this particular user for the connection between dbt and Snowflake. So that is why I'm just going to copy this here and I'm going to paste this. So I'm going to use dbt user. Remember that you don't have to use your account. You have created this particular user, so you remember to use this one. Now I will hit enter. The next thing it is asking is how would you like to authorize this user? Using a password, using a key pair, using SSO. So I'm going to use password, so I'm adding 1 here. Now it is asking us for the password, and we have also set up password here. So dbt user 123, this is the password. So I'm going to write this one over here, dbt user 123. So you can write whatever password you have chosen over here. Now the role. So we know that the role that we have created is dbt role, and the warehouse. So we know the warehouse that we want to use for this particular role is compute wh. So I'm going to use this one over here. Then the database name. So the database name that we have created is this HR analytics. So I'm going to write that over here. And then the schema. So currently we only have one schema. We're going to change the schema anyways later on. So this can be used as our default schema. So I'm just writing this as staging. Now the number of threads, I'm just keeping this as 1. Now it is saying that profile dbt HR analytics written to this particular location in profiles.yaml using targets profile template YAML and your supplied values. So what this means is dbt has created this file profiles.yaml in this particular location. The connection details between dbt and Snowflake are stored into this particular file, and the reason why this file is not included in this setup, like in this particular folder, is because of security reasons. We don't want these connection details to be shown outside, because then anybody would be able to connect with our Snowflake account and can misuse it. So that is why dbt is ensuring that we are not storing it over here but at a safe location. So this is that particular location. Now, next dbt is asking to run dbt debug to validate the connection. Now to validate the connection, we first have to go into the dbt folder. And if you see on the left hand side, this dbt HR analytics is a new folder that has been created for us. And this is created by dbt. I think I misspelled it. I added double underscores here. That is why it is showing with double underscores, but it's not a problem. That's fine. So this is the folder that dbt has created for us, and it has stored all the schema that it needs for the configuration. So it has analysis, macros, models, seeds, snapshots, tests, dbt_project.yaml file. So this is the schema of a dbt project, and don't worry, I know you are not understanding this as to what do we need to write in macros or models. I will be showing you the full thing later on. So for now, let us go into this particular project so that we can run dbt debug command. So I'm going to do cd dbt __ HR analytics. This is our dbt folder. So I'm going to go into this one, And now I'm going to run dbt debug so that I can just verify that whatever details I have provided, they are correct, and I am able to set up a connection between dbt and Snowflake. Now all checks passed, so we are able to connect. So the credentials that we have provided and the data that we have provided for setting up this connection, it is all correct. So this was how you can set up the initial part of the dbt project. I would love to give you a sneak peek into our project that we will be building throughout this series. Now, this preview will help you understand the depth that we are going into for this particular project. So this is not a dummy project. We'll be working through the entire life cycle. Like you saw that we are ingesting the data, and then we are going to be applying some structured transformations on top of this raw data to build our production ready data models. And these data models can directly be given to data analysts or to data scientists so that they can take this further. Now, along the way, you will see that I'm not just explaining DBT concepts in theory, we are also going to see their practical implementations so that the next time somebody asks you any question about DBT or you are asked to do a project in DBT, you know how to start, what to do, and how the project lifecycle would be. So to give you an overview, we're going to be creating some macros, then we're going to be building models. And for this, we're going to be following the medallion architecture. So we're going to create bronze models, then silver models, and then gold models. Then we're going to be creating seed files, then snapshots, tests as well. So we are not just relying on the built-in test provided by DBT. We are creating our own custom tests as well in this project. So this is the entire thing that we will be doing. I would love for you to stay with me throughout the series. And if you have any questions, then please put them in the comments below. I promise I will come back to those questions. This was it for this particular video. Thank you for watching. I will see you in my next one.